All right, y'all, I do have this. I have got a a what I would call a extremely cool drive today. I've been wanting to do this drive for a few months, but I've just been busy. By the way, that sign says Duffy Mountain. We are now turning off of State Highway 13. We are right by Colorado Coal Company. We are on, if you can read that sign, County Road 17. We are heading in a westerly direction, and we are going to the one of the most interesting and scary drives that there is in Rio Blanco County. I don't think we're in Moffat County anymore. No, we're still in Moffat County, never mind. I don't know. Well, we'll have to look at where the roads change and see how much of this. It doesn't really matter, though. So, out there in the distance, you can see a train. And this is what they call it, the tip out. If I remember my vernacular correctly, for Colorado, it's the loading area, and this very spot is the terminus of the Union Pacific, which used to be the Durango, Rio Grande, Durango and Rio Grande, DR&G Railroad, bought by Union Pacific, of course. But they did have the rail built through here. It actually goes through some really cool canyons over to our left. It follows the Yampa River for a while through some canyons, which makes sense. I mean, it's going to be one of the, unless you have giant waterfalls, that's going to be one of the least incline challenged places to put a railroad track. The work has been done pretty much by nature, leveling the ground, making it a nice level spot. I'm not sure how much you can see, if you can even see that, but over to the left is the loadout area. Like I said, I think they call it the tipple or tip out. Tipple, sounds right. And maybe that terminology comes from another mine or older mines or equipment that, I don't know. It's just what comes to mind. So we're headed south now. We are going up the coolest, scariest road, I think, in Moffat or Rio Blanco County. There are some narrow roads that are pretty scary, because a narrow road, especially a shelf road, is always scary. Especially if it's really narrow and you're stuck right on the outside edge of it. And you may have rocks, cliffs, all kinds of stuff, That's not atypical for mountain. This is an interesting road here, County Road 32. I'd like to do a video of that one of these days. If, we'll see. But today, this is where we get to go. So this is a privilege, an honor for me to be able to show you this road. By the way, there's a little highway underneath this. It's a 2-lane highway, asphalt. Built to highway standards. It's private. It's for the mine. There's actually another mine that's opened up, or being open. I think it's opened up out to our west, and that road connects to it, and it's basically a haul road for the mine. I'm not sure why they built it that way. Maybe they looked at the cost of maintaining a dirt road versus the cost of putting an asphalt road in and decided that that was cheaper. Maybe the government has dictated that if any new roads built on, who knows? I don't know. I do know that the coal mine owns all of this property up here. Like I said, this is Wilson. This is Wilson Creek. A cool, quick little history about Wilson Creek. I believe it was around or a little bit after the turn of the century, over 100 years ago, that this area was discovered. It might have been later than that. But it was a vast might not be the right. I'm going to use that term, but not knowing whether that's true or not. I think it's a vast petroleum reserve. Excuse me. In northwest Colorado, and we do have a lot of fossil fuels here, which is, I think, one of the reasons why the government hates the western side of Colorado. Apparently, according to the leftists, the western side of Colorado, because it has fossil fuels in it, because they're here, contaminating Mother Nature, in a sense, right? Because to the left, a fossil fuel is not Mother Nature. It's not natural. It's just white supremacy. I don't know how to make that logic work. I'm not going to try, but that's apparently their opinion. And apparently people believe that. So, but this area has got vast petroleum, fossil fuels, coal, and oil shale resources. On top of that, it also has gold. It has radioactive minerals of several varieties. Rare earth, you hear that term talked about. You hear people say, oh, but the United States doesn't have any rare earth material, minerals or whatever. And that's a big lie. Several Western states have rare earth material. But we have a bureaucracy that pushes that down, tries to hide that from us. So, yeah, we live in an upside down world. But I'm still happy to be here. This area was built, and it could have been by Texaco. Check this out. Bit of a rock slide up here. We've had a hell of a winter. We've had a lot of moisture, and then we've had a lot of freezing and thawing going on. So you see those big rocks? Yeah, those are the result of that. I would like to have one of those in my front yard, but my front yard's not that big. Yeah, this whole hillside is sliding down. So if you're ever in Colorado and you see watch for falling rocks, certainly don't disbelieve that. Definitely watch for falling rocks, because they are here, they are there, and they're typically in the roadway. Most people are pretty lucky and don't get hit by a rock, but a rare occasion that's happening. And if you can see a big rock like that, kill you. Apparently we're going to get rain today and tonight, so a lot of these hillsides that are very on the edge right now, they'll probably trigger a lot of mudslides if we get what they expect to see. They being the weather people. But I did also notice this morning that there's humidity in the air. You could feel it, you could see, that the sky wasn't quite as vibrant out here as it typically is, which means there's moisture in the air. Or smoke. Oh yeah, there. The little creek that you can't see, but I will report this for you, is certainly over its banks in a lot of places. And extremely muddy looking, so it's carrying a lot of cutting. It's cutting a lot of material out right now. Wilson Creek. So yeah, to get back, I know I lose my train of thought here. Up at the top of Wilson Creek, and I think it was Texaco. Either they bought it or they started it, I don't know. They were around at that time. But that's who owns it now. There was a really cool camp built up here. Houses, living quarters, and everything up here to take care of all of the wells. And I believe what they had done was they had built a collection area, and it looked like they were doing a little bit of processing. I like those big blocks. I could use a few of those. So there's what looked like at one time it was somewhat of a community up here. And now there's still a lot of people up here. Every time you go up here, there are, when I say several people, I don't know how many there are, but it probably depends on what part of this organization or this structure, this mechanical structure that they built up here is getting updated or replaced or taken out or changed somehow. It looks to me like they've taken the old quarters down and they've built new quarters up here. And they may not even be quarters up here anymore. I really don't know for sure. But I do remember seeing it. Back in the 70s. And it was really neat. So, bit of a... It's like, the road's really nice, by the way. The maintainers have done a great job on this road. And it's wet enough that it's not that dusty. Look at that. Yeah, we have some. Now I'm a little bit jumpy, which I think I should be. And I believe we were below freezing last night. I'm sure they were below freezing up here, and they probably will be for the next few weeks anyway, maybe longer. Who knows? I mean, this is a pretty big cool off this year, and that certainly acts as a lever when there's melting going on. The sun comes out, it gets warm, everything thaws out, the water starts flowing. Late in the afternoon, it starts getting cold again. When it freezes again, the ice expands, and then warms up, Helps a little bit, more water flows, it freezes, the ice expands. You get it. It's like a ratchet. And so it moves these gigantic, huge rocks, teeny tiny little bits at a time, where where the water can get into a crack and where the freezing can take place, freezing and thawing. A little bit rougher up here. One of the reasons that I haven't gone up here in the last few weeks is because I assumed, from past experience, I know that the road would look like this, but it would be muddy, and I really don't like driving in mud. That is something that I do not like to do. So this time of year, we get a lot of rock fall because of that. That ratchet effect that freezing the water, freezing thawing cycles have on rocks that are already somewhat predisposed. Oh, there must have been a pretty good one here. Yeah, and also they're predisposed to falling, so then I finished that line. The top of this valley is about 8,000, maybe 8,100 feet, and from my local sources, I know that it's still impassable up here. As of a few days ago, some of the areas, the drifts are so gigantic that people can't get through to some of the infrastructure that you'll typically find on top of a mountain in Colorado. And that's mainly going to be radio communications. Oh yeah, look at that. I'm gonna, no, maybe not. I'll find a better spot here. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Stop right here. Okay, I had to get out to investigate something that was worth investigating. There's some pretty ducks. Here's a good example of some of the heavy snow that has been deposited up here. This is a extremely interesting high point, and we're not very far away from the top of 9 Mile Pass heading into Meeker, and for that matter, we're not all that far away from the top of Sleepy Cat, well, Yellow Jacket Pass. One's probably 5 miles to our left, and the other one's probably about 10 miles to our left. But they're all on a similar ridge, a high point. This being the highest point. And one of these mountains, which I think might be useful for understanding how they might have found petroleum up here way back when. One of the mountains is called Devil's Hole Mountain. Devil's Hole. So what would Devil's Hole be? It would be something that is probably burning or sulfurous or, something along that line. So let me, even though I really don't want to, I don't really well, to get my car all muddy. But this is the up towards the old, um, yeah, that's probably good enough. Well, I'll go up here and turn around. If I can get around here. Yeah. There's actually a pipe right there. I don't want to hit it. You can see that, maybe. That is saving this building from getting washed away. So this is where the old, almost like camp. What would the word be? Just like a little camp house. What am I trying to say? Like at a ranch, you know, you would have your quarters for the ranch hands, and you'd have the fancy ranch for the folks that lived in the fancy ranch. So this guy is up here tending water issues. He's probably been, I'm assuming that there could be somebody that's here, you know, year around, because this is a pretty big, I would assume, important facility. I think it's the collection point for all of the wells. And we'll see some of the wells pretty shortly, and you'll see why. You'll see why Wilson Creek is quite the, or maybe not. Oh yeah, I think we're okay. But I do think that they do some maybe call it mild processing up here. Maybe they can separate the things that they mine. I'm gonna go ahead and put my four-wheel drive in. I just got a feeling might need it. But like I said, I think that they separate the easily separable minerals that they mine. I mean, really, this is a mine, even though it's a petroleum. You know what I'm saying? And maybe they do things like just take the water off of it, just separate the water. I'm really not sure, but this is a pretty elaborate plant. It doesn't look like it, but it certainly is. If all of the pipes were exposed here, that they put in over probably the last century, there's probably a whole lot of steel up here. And in the fall, by the way, this is beautiful up here. It's really pretty. Let's see, how are we looking? Looking pretty good. I'm gonna leave the focus a little bit zoomed. Actually, that really isn't the right term. I'm going to leave the magnification a little bit to the zoomed outside. The focus is the focus. The zoom is a magnification. And I use these terms, you know, like I know what I'm talking about, when apparently I don't. Not thinking. Yeah, we couldn't have hit this much better. I'm just really happy to be able to get up here. Now, this road is open year around, other than maybe for a day or two after a big storm, a snowstorm, or if it's a really muddy, because they have big trucks coming up and down this road all the time. So check that out. Huh? Yeah, look at that. Let me just do a little so chevron. Now you see all these roads up here. These roads are all going weather station right in front of us. These roads are all going to different mine or different wells. And there's, for the most part, everything is plumbed back into that production, distribution, distillation, whatever. It's not a refinery. But I just want you to get a look at that. And so I'm going to slow down a little bit so that so that the camera can give you a good picture. The road is beautiful. I can't complain. This road is gorgeous. Typically, it's pretty dusty up here. The road is mainly clay. And you can't see down below us, but there are roads that just cut right down below us. Yeah, not going to be able to show you that. But I think you'll get the view. The horizon that you're looking at, I think we're looking at, yeah, I think that over, where I just said that. I think we could see Grand Mesa from here. We might be looking as far south as into southern Colorado and into Utah from up there. That is a huge vista. This is one of the highest points on the Colorado, the Western Plateau. At least 4 miles around. And so we get this great view. The valley in front of us, that you see, the green valley that is just past these hills, is the White. No, that actually isn't the White. Yeah, that is part of the White River Valley. I think the far, yeah. Oh yeah, we got a lot of moisture still working its way through. This road has been bladed very recently. It may be getting bladed as we speak. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't find a maintainer on it, because this road's in pretty good shape. They're knocking it down, knocking the lumps down very nicely. You may not, yeah, you can't see it, but on our left side, we do not want to drive off of this road. It is steep, steep, steep. I think you can see a little bit of that, just how steep it is. I have filmed this road. I think the first time that I filmed this road was about 4 or 5 years ago. It was before Riding Shotgun had a channel But I didn't post the video. I didn't like it because it was so shaky. The resolution was really crappy. And I was very unpleased with it. But my camera mount was a piece of junk. So this is actually the first time that I've filmed this road with this camera mount. And it is a little bit shaky, but it's much nicer. The point being that this video might actually make it. It may not, but it might. It's a nice little view. This landscape is, well, it's unique to Western Colorado. And there are places in the world that have this similar types of mountains and, you know, vegetation. They're going to look similar. But this is unique for Western Colorado. But there are a lot of varieties, very similar varieties of this kind of landscape all through Western Colorado and Utah and Nevada, probably California, Arizona, New Mexico. But there's like flavor that I notice when I'm in these areas. There's just certain things that stand out. And I can usually look at a landscape picture of the areas around here and guess pretty well where they're from, even when they look quite similar. You know, for the little cues that I might not even know that I know, but that help me, you know, sniff out an idea of where that location might be. Am I bragging? Yeah, that's a superpower that I have. Well, I have Windows computers. I used to like Windows much more than Mac, although Apple computers have always been higher quality. They've always been higher quality right off the shelf than your typical Windows computer. What I didn't like about Mac computers is they used to have a more iron fist way of how you could work with the computer that you bought. You had to play by their rules, and that really bothered me. I really got annoyed by that. I also liked the Windows-based, or they'll call it MS-DOS based. That's really going to make more sense. Those computers were a lot more fun to me because they were a much more tinker-friendly computer. If you were a graphics person, an artist of some kind, 10, 15, 20 years ago, and you were looking for computers, you were going to pick an Apple, especially if it was your business and you needed to get to work on it right away. But if you're a tinkerer, an engineer type, and you wanted to play around with the computer, goof with it, build it up, whatever, modify it, you would be more likely to get an MS-DOS based computer because of all the things that you could change in it and the open nature of the software. Now, that's not to say that Apple software wasn't as open, but the disk operating system, which MS-DOS, was much more open than the Apple stuff. So it was a lot of fun. Anyway, really long-winded way to say that nowadays I kind of like it when Microsoft puts a picture up when I turn a computer on, and if you have, you know what I mean, if you have a, if you're connected to Microsoft, if you have that kind of computer, if you're running Windows 10 or 11, probably too. And they've done it before. I think they started doing that in maybe even before Vista, which, by the way, was my favorite operating system. And was hated because of a political. Apple and Mac got into a political fight, and Apple and Microsoft got into a political fight. Apple won, and Microsoft Vista became the whipping boy, because it was not bad. It was absolutely not. You can always find people that had a problem with their computer, but Vista was one of the best systems, one of the best OSs that I've ever had. It was almost a great balance of polished and with the ability to still open the hood up and tinker with it. In case you haven't noticed, boy, they've actually upgraded this road quite a bit. We are driving right through the middle of the farm. Probably a ranch would be more likely. Right. And I still haven't made my point. That's kind of funny. So when Windows puts these pictures out of landscapes, I like to try to guess where that landscape is. And a lot of the time I'm right. I used to think that I was really, really good at it, but they put several pictures out that can be kind of hard to judge. I saw a picture just a week or two ago of, I think it's called Snow Mountain from China, in an area in China that looked a whole lot like the Tetons. So I assumed it was Wyoming, just right off the bat. There are places that have a similar architecture, the way they're built, the mountainous areas. Chile and Argentina are a couple of those areas that have places that could look like just about anywhere in the world. From the Swiss Alps to the Himalayas to the Rocky Mountains to some of the things that you see up in Alaska, the mountains up there, to Canada. I mean, it's so that some of them are really tough. And I enjoy that. And I enjoy being fooled. I mean, it's fun to learn these other areas. So I do like that about Windows. I like that little functionality. I suppose on a larger note, I don't think that Windows or Microsoft and Apple are that much different anymore. They're all quite iron fisted about the way that their OS works, about what you can do. And yeah, so at this point, I really wouldn't care. Same with Android and Apple. I used to think that Apple was just reprehensible. I hated their policy on audio. You know, like they were the big ones with the cool MP3 players, but their policy was ridiculous. You'd end up with a lot of the material you had, you couldn't even play it, especially if you got it from Napster, before Napster was made illegal by the recording industry. A lot of people are annoyed by that. That's kind of funny. So we're heading towards Meeker. We're coming around the west side of the hogback that goes west of Meeker. And we'll cross that and come over into Meeker. I have done videos of this road before, but the last video that I recall I've done of this road going this direction, I started in Maybell on a pretty snowy day. I think it was in February. So maybe 2 or 3 months ago. This is another one of those really, really nice areas. Around here. I have a couple of school buses behind me. This time of day is before noon. I'm going to assume it's kids on a field trip or somebody's sports team from some school coming to or through Meeker. Wow, there's 4 buses behind me. I think they're catching up with me. I'll speed up a little bit. So I'm assuming that's what that is. 4 buses, though. That's a bunch. I suppose another pretty flowers, very nice. I suppose another potential would be that the purge has begun and that those school buses are full of people who, as my friend who doesn't know me in Sweden would say, maybe these buses are full of the people that didn't drink the tea. I'm probably not going to do you any good. I didn't also have some. I hope that helps. Yeah, there's 4 buses. Maybe a field trip. Yesterday I was in Wyoming on I-80. Probably going to use that video if I actually got a full video. I didn't have my camera plugged into my car's power supply, so I was relying on the battery to record it. And I was trying to, rather than talk about, pure politics, I was trying to be a little bit on the philosophical side, which is still politics, but it's politics once or twice removed away from current events, which I find I would rather do, but it's actually pretty damn tough to do. Okay, so this road, as the sign says, if we were to go right, we would head west to Rangeley. We're heading left, and what we're seeing in front of us is a little bit of the hogback. These sandstone rocks that are standing almost vertical. And there's a gap in them that continues on over across the river valley. And that hogback continues on and it goes all the way down past Rifle, turns from north and south and starts going east and west and runs for several miles up towards Vail, up in that area. It's a pretty gigantic structure. We can easily spot it on Google Earth. Not only that, I think it actually turns west here and runs west for several miles. And we may have came over the top of what I'm thinking is also hogback. That might have been Wilson Creek. I do not know. What time is it? Now we're in the White River Valley. Oh yeah, there's a lot of snow. Looking kind of to the east right now, we're looking up at the flat tops. And some of those mountains get up into the high 12s or maybe even 13,000 feet. But I guarantee you, there is a lot of snow up there. See, the mountains that we can see from Meeker, from downtown Meeker, you can see, I think, Big Marvine Peak, Little Marvine Peak, and Rat Mountain, as long as you can see the top of the mesa, which is the flat tops. Note that I'm saying that while we're pointed in a different direction, but yeah, you can say that my sync is out of whack by about, I don't know, 45 seconds. But we'll be turning in that direction shortly. But I'll just repeat it. What have I said about Meeker that I will probably say again? It's a neat place. Beautiful little town. Beautiful little mountain river through it. So what I was talking about, we're looking up those snow-covered peaks up there above that flashing sign. Someone behind me is going really fast. Apparently. Not me. So those snow-covered mountains that we saw for a second are now sort of behind the trees. But that's the area where you can see Big Marvine Peak, Little Marvine Peak, Rat Mountain, and we're looking at the mesa, the flat tops, the very southwestern edge of the flat tops.